My name is Stephen Braxton, and I don't do drama. I clock in, do what's on the board, keep my head clear, and clock out. That's been the plan for 3 years at this logistics company on the edge of downtown, one of those places that never really sleeps, because trucks don't care what day it is. That Tuesday night, my shift ran late. Delayed shipment, missing paperwork, supervisor who decided we needed a full recount at 10 p.m. By the time I swiped out at 11:03, the building felt hollow. Lights dimmed, hallways quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every sound carry. Outside, the cold hit me like a slap. Streetlights painted the wet pavement in pale streaks. Cars hissed past. Somewhere down the block, a siren faded into the distance. I pulled my jacket tighter and headed toward the employee gate, already thinking about the hot shower and leftover Chinese food waiting at home. That's when I saw Harlan. He was always there, right by the side of the fence where workers cut through to the bus stop. Not inside the gate, not close enough to bother anyone, just present. A homeless man who'd been part of the scenery for the past 6 months. But Harlan wasn't like the others you'd cross the street to avoid. He didn't yell. He didn't chase. He never held his hand out like he was performing for sympathy. He just sat on the concrete ledge with his back against the cold metal fence, a knit cap pulled low, and eyes that looked sharp instead of empty. I'd been buying him food for months now. Not every night, but most nights. It started simple, an extra sandwich I hadn't opened. After that, it became routine. Tonight, I'd grabbed 2 chicken sliders and a small coffee from the kiosk near the gate. Black, no sugar. That's how he took it. I walked over and held out the bag. He took it with a nod, but instead of his usual "appreciate you," he looked at me differently. His face shifted, not fear exactly, like he'd just connected dots he didn't want connected. "Stephen," he said. Hearing my name from his mouth stopped me cold. I'd never told him my name, not directly. Before I could ask, his hand shot out and grabbed my wrist. "Don't go home tonight," he said, voice low and urgent. I stared at him, half laughing because the words sounded absurd. "What? What are you talking about?" His grip didn't loosen. His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that killed my smile. "Not your usual way," he continued. "Take the long way through downtown. Make the loop. Tomorrow morning, you come back here before your shift. I'll tell you everything then." "Why?" I demanded. "What did you—" "Don't ask right now." His voice carried weight I couldn't argue with. "Just do it. Trust me on this." I pulled my wrist free, more confused than angry, and took a step back. Behind him, the gate guard leaned against his booth, scrolling his phone. A couple workers walked past, laughing about something. Everything looked normal. That was the problem. Normal makes warnings feel stupid. I looked at Harlan again. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't trying to scare me for entertainment. He looked burdened, like he'd already watched something terrible happen once and didn't want to repeat. I swallowed hard. Downtown? That's way out of my way. "It's safer tonight," he said swiftly. I should have brushed him off. Should have walked my usual route like I'd done 100 times before. But something in his face stopped me. "Stephen, yo." The voice came from my left. I turned. Derek from my department. Same shift, different role. Always grinning. Always acting like he had time for everyone. He walked up with his hands stuffed in his jacket pockets, eyes flicking from me to Harlan and back. "Man, rough night, huh?" Derek said. "You heading home?" "Yeah," I answered. His smile widened. "I can walk with you. It's late. Sketchy out here." The offer should have felt normal, friendly even. But right after Harlan's grip on my wrist, it landed wrong. Like the same line delivered by a different actor. I watched Derek's face a second too long. His eyes were bright, but not warm. Curious. Measuring. I glanced toward the street, seeing my normal path in my head. 2 blocks past the dark lot, cut by the closed laundromat. then the quiet stretch toward my building. Harlan's words replayed in my mind. Not your usual way. I didn't want to look paranoid, didn't want to give Derek the satisfaction of seeing me hesitate. So I shrugged like I didn't care. Nah, I'm good, I said. I'm taking downtown tonight. Got something to handle. Downtown? He repeated too fast. Why would you go through downtown? I shrugged again, forcing casual. Just need to. His grin stayed plastered on his face, but it thinned at the edges. Well, he said, stretching the word out. Be careful out there. He stepped back, then added like an afterthought. Text me when you get in, yeah? I nodded without committing. I turned and walked toward the bus stop that would take me the long way around. Behind me, I felt Harlan's eyes on my back, and I felt something else too. The sensation of being watched by someone who wasn't standing close enough to see. The bus arrived 3 minutes later. I boarded and sat near the front, pretending my phone was more interesting than the windows. At the next stop, footsteps climbed aboard behind me. I glanced up at the reflection in the window. I saw Derek. He stood 2 rows back, hanging onto the overhead strap, staring past the seats like he was just another tired worker heading home. Except Derek didn't live this direction. I knew that for a fact. My pulse kicked up a notch, but I kept my face neutral. My stop came 4 blocks later. I stood, stepped off, and didn't look back. Footsteps hit the pavement behind me a second later. I didn't run. Running turns fear into a confession. I just walked faster, cutting across brighter streets, the ones with cameras, traffic, and noise. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number, 1 message. You home yet? I stared at the screen until it dimmed, then lit again in my hand. I didn't reply. I slid the phone back into my pocket. I kept walking downtown, taking the long route through lit intersections and past open businesses. My building came into view 40 minutes later, which is 3 hours later than my usual arrival time. I climbed the stairs to my 3rd-floor apartment, unlocked the door, and locked it behind me. Not just the handle lock, the deadbolt too, and the chain. I collapsed on my couch, replaying everything. Harlan's warning, Derek's too quick reaction, the bus, the unknown text. Sleep came in fragments, 20 minutes here, 15 there, interrupted by every sound in the building. At 6 a.m., my phone buzzed on the coffee table where I'd finally set it down. Another message, same unknown number. This time it was a photo. My apartment building, taken from across the street. The timestamp read 3:47 a.m. below the image. Where were you? My stomach dropped into my feet. Someone had come looking for me in the middle of the night. Someone who expected me to be home, alone, vulnerable. Someone who was tracking my routine closely enough to know I should have been there. I sat up, blood pounding in my ears, and checked the time. 6:02 a.m. Harlan had said to meet him before my shift. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door, already counting the minutes until I could get answers. Because whatever this was, whatever Harlan had seen or heard, it was real, and it was hunting me. I left my apartment at 6:35 a.m., an hour before my shift started. The employee gate came into view at 6:48. Harlan was already there, sitting on his usual ledge with a styrofoam cup of coffee in his hands. When he saw me, he stood up like he'd been waiting for hours. I didn't waste time with small talk. What's going on? I asked, pulling out my phone and showing him the 3:47 a.m. photo. Someone came to my building last night. Someone who knew I should have been home. Harlan looked at the photo, his jaw tightening. That's him confirming you broke the pattern. He's recalculating now. Who? I demanded. Who is him? His name is Derek, Harlan said quietly. You work together. He has been watching you for 3 months. And last night, he was planning to kill you. The words should have sounded crazy. They should have bounced off me like bad gossip. But they didn't. Because I'd seen Derek follow me. I'd gotten the texts. I'd felt the wrongness in his voice when I mentioned downtown. "How do you know?" I asked. Harlan pulled out his cracked smartphone, one of those prepaid models you get from donation bins. He opened his photo gallery and started swiping. 2 weeks ago, I heard him on his phone right here by the fence. Late, past midnight. Thought no one was around, Harlan explained. He was talking to someone about timing, about the usual route, about making it look random. And he said your name. After that, I started paying attention, Harlan continued. He showed me a photo. Derek sitting in a car near my bus stop. The timestamp read 11:34 p.m., 6 days ago. Another photo. Derek walking 20 feet behind me on the sidewalk. Another. Derek standing across the street from my building, checking his watch. There were 12 photos total. Different nights. Different angles. All showing the same thing. Derek following me like a shadow I never noticed. I was homeless, not blind, Harlan said. When someone's hunting, you can tell. I scrolled through the photos again, my hands shaking slightly. Why didn't you go to the police? I did, Harlan admitted. Went to the precinct on 5th Street 3 days ago. Showed them the photos. They said I needed more than a homeless man's word and some grainy pictures. Said Derek could claim he was just walking the same direction. They told me to come back if something actually happened. So they wanted to wait until I was dead, I said flatly. Harlan nodded. That's why I warned you. Figured if we kept you alive long enough, we could get real proof. He swiped to another image, a screenshot. It showed a phone screen with a search bar visible. The searches made my blood run cold. How long before missing person investigation starts? Difference between accident and homicide? CCTV blind spots downtown? I took that during a smoke break 3 weeks ago, Harlan said. He left his phone on the ledge for 30 seconds. Long enough. I stared at the searches, trying to process what I was seeing. This wasn't anger. This wasn't impulse. This was planning. Research. Preparation. Derek had been studying how to kill me and get away with it. My phone buzzed. Text from Derek. Hey man, you didn't text me last night. Everything cool? The fake concern felt like poison wrapped in a smile. I showed Harlan the message. He shook his head slowly. He's checking if you suspect anything, trying to keep his cover intact. What do I do? I asked. We need irrefutable proof, Harlan said. Something that shows intent, something he can't explain away. He met my eyes. We give him what he wants, one more chance to try. But this time, we're ready. The idea terrified and steadied me at the same time. I'm a logistics guy. I solve problems with planning, not panic. I know someone, I said. Maya. We went to college together. She works in private security now. Can she help? Yeah, she owes me a favor. I called Maya during my first break. Explained the situation without drama, coworker showing predatory behavior, homeless witness with documentation, need to capture an attempted assault on camera before it succeeds. She didn't ask if I was sure. She didn't question whether I was overreacting. She just said, I'll get you a body camera and position myself with a telephoto lens. When do you need this? This weekend. Saturday night. Late shift. I'll be there. At lunch, Derek found me in the break room. He walked up too close, smile fixed on his face like it was stapled there. You've been acting off, man, he said. Something going on? I kept my face neutral. Just tired. Long week. He leaned against the table. You know I'm here if you need to talk, right? We're friends. The word friends felt like a threat disguised as comfort. I'm good, I said. Just need to get through the week. You working this weekend? He asked. Too casual? I paused like I was thinking about it. Yeah, actually. Picking up a Saturday shift, trying to build up my savings account. His eyes sharpened with interest. Late shift? Probably out by 11, same routine as always. Something flashed across his face like satisfaction, maybe. Planning. "Be safe out there," he said, patting my shoulder. "Gets rough at night." He walked away, but I felt his attention linger like heat on the back of my neck. That evening, after my shift, I met Harlan 2 blocks from the building. We coordinated the plan. Body camera hidden under my jacket. Harlan positioned as shadow witness, Maya 2 blocks away with clear sightline. Saturday night, 11 p.m. The dark stretch by the laundromat. We'd give Derek exactly what he wanted. Me, alone, on my usual route. But this time, every second would be recorded. Friday afternoon, I made sure Derek overheard me talking to another coworker. "Yeah, pulling a Saturday shift tomorrow. Gotta stay consistent, you know?" Derek glanced over from his station, pretending not to listen. That night, my phone buzzed at 11:47 p.m., unknown number. "Tomorrow night, don't be late." It wasn't a question, it was a promise. Derek wasn't hiding anymore. He was counting down, and so was I. Before we get to Saturday night, if you're finding yourself invested in Steven's fight to survive his coworker's murder plot, hit that subscribe button. We post stories like this every single day. Don't miss the next one. Now back to how Steven turns the tables on Derek. Saturday arrived like any other shift day. I clocked in at 3 p.m., moved through my tasks with mechanical precision, and acted like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. The body camera Maya gave me was clipped inside my jacket, hidden behind the fabric but angled to capture everything in front of me. My phone sat in my chest pocket, audio recording app running on loop. Every word, every movement, it would all be documented. Across the warehouse floor, Derek watched me. Not constantly, not obviously, but enough that I caught him glancing over every 20 minutes. He checked his phone more than usual, adjusted something in his jacket pocket repeatedly. At 9 p.m. during a water break, he walked past me and said, "Long night, huh?" "Yeah," I replied. "But the overtime's worth it." He smiled. "You leaving at 11? "That's the plan." "Cool. Be safe out there." He walked away, and I felt the weight of what was about to happen settle over me like a lead blanket. At 10:50 p.m., I swiped out. The parking lot was nearly empty. 3 cars, dim lighting, cold air that bit through my jacket. I walked toward the employee gate, forcing my steps to stay steady and predictable. Harlan wasn't visible, but I knew he was positioned in the shadows near the laundromat, exactly where we'd planned. Maya had texted me 30 minutes earlier. "In position? 2 blocks east? Clear line of sight? Stay safe." I started walking my usual route. 2 blocks past the empty lot. Left turn at the shuttered auto shop. Then the stretch by the closed laundromat, the one with broken sidewalk lighting and no traffic cameras. The kill zone. My footsteps echoed off the pavement. The street was quiet except for distant traffic noise and the hum of a transformer on a nearby pole. My breath came out in visible clouds. Then I heard it. Footsteps behind me, measured, deliberate, closing distance. I didn't turn around. Turning shows you no. I kept walking, counting the steps in my head, listening as the rhythm quickened. "Steven?" The voice cut through the silence like a blade. I stopped, took a breath, and turned slowly. Derek stood 12 feet back, hands buried in his jacket pockets. His face was half-shadowed by the weak glow of a streetlight 20 yards behind him. But I could see his expression clearly enough. The friendly mask was gone. "Didn't know you were still here," I said, keeping my tone casual. "Had some inventory to finish," Derek replied. "Thought I'd catch up with you." He took 3 steps closer, 10 feet now. "You've been quiet this week," he continued. "Everything good?" "Same as always," I said. "Work, sleep, repeat." "That promotion treating you well?" The question landed like a punch. "It's more responsibility," I answered carefully. "But I handle it." Derek's jaw tightened. He took another step. 8 feet. Yeah, you always do. His voice shifted, friendly tone stripped away, replaced by something cold and flat. That's the thing about you, Stephen. You just keep succeeding. You just keep winning. My pulse hammered, but I kept my face neutral. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. Another step. 6 feet now. His right hand was still in his pocket, gripping something. I could see the outline through the fabric. You know what's funny? Derek said, and his voice had gone completely empty of warmth. I worked twice as hard for that position. I stayed late every single night. I covered shifts nobody wanted. I played the game perfectly, and they still chose you. That wasn't my fault, I said quietly. Derek laughed. No, but you're still in the way. His hand started pulling from his pocket. Metal glinted under the streetlight. A folding knife. 4-inch blade, recently sharpened. And tonight, Derek continued, voice steady like he was reciting a grocery list, you're going to have an accident. Just another random mugging gone wrong. Another statistic in a bad neighborhood. My body camera was recording every word, every movement. Derek, you don't want to do this, I said, taking one step back. I really do. He Kazum flipped the knife open with practiced ease. I needed that job. I needed the money. My life fell apart after they picked you. And you didn't even notice. You just clocked in and out like nothing mattered. He raised the knife. That's when Harlan stepped out of the shadows 20 feet to our left. I've been recording this entire conversation, Harlan said. His phone was raised, camera lens pointed directly at Derek. And you're on 3 cameras right now. Derek spun toward the voice, confusion flooding his face. Who the hell? I'm the man who's been watching you watch him for 3 months, Harlan interrupted. I've got photos, timestamps, audio of your planning, and the police are already on their way. Derek's face twisted through emotions like shuffling cards, confusion, then recognition, then rage. This is insane, Derek shouted. You're setting me up. This is... I tapped the camera clipped inside my jacket, making sure he saw the movement. You just confessed to premeditated murder on video, I said, in your own words, with the weapon in your hand. Derek looked at the knife like he'd forgotten he was holding it. His breathing quickened. Panic crept into his eyes. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. No, Derek whispered. No, this isn't... I wasn't actually going to... Then explain the 3 months of stalking, I said. Explain the texts. Explain why you're here right now with a knife, telling me I'm about to have an accident. The sirens were close now, maybe 2 blocks away. Derek looked toward the sound, then back at me, then at the knife. For a split second, I thought he might run. Instead, he dropped to his knees. The knife clattered to the pavement. He put his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. I needed that job, he said, voice breaking. My life fell apart. My ex-wife, the bills, my daughter's medical expenses, everything collapsed. And you got the one thing that could have saved me. I felt nothing. No sympathy, just cold relief that this was ending. 2 patrol cars screeched to a stop, lights washing the street in red and blue. 4 officers emerged, hands on their weapons. I raised my hands immediately, calm and clear. I'm Stephen Braxton. I called this in earlier today, I said, voice steady. That man just threatened me with a knife and confessed to planning my murder. We have video, audio, and witness testimony. The weapon is on the ground next to him. 2 officers moved toward Derek, who didn't resist. They cuffed him while he mumbled incoherently about bad luck and unfairness. Another officer picked up the knife with gloved hands, dropping it into an evidence bag. A 3rd officer approached me. You're the one who filed the pre-incident report? Yes, sir. Smart move. We'll need all your footage and a full statement. Derek was pulled to his feet, still muttering. As officers walked him toward the patrol car, he looked at me one last time. His face was hollow, defeated, a predator, caught in his own trap. The patrol car door slammed shut, cutting off his voice. Harlan walked over slowly, looking more exhausted than triumphant. "You good?" he asked. I nodded. "Yeah, thanks to you." Maya's car pulled up a minute later, camera equipment visible through the window. She stepped out, looking relieved. "Got everything on telephoto," she said. "The approach, the threat, the confession, all of it." A detective arrived 15 minutes later, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. She reviewed my body camera footage on a laptop in her patrol car, shaking her head slowly. "This is the cleanest attempted murder case I've seen in years," she said. "You documented everything perfectly. He's not talking his way out of this." I watched the patrol car carrying Derek disappear around the corner, lights still flashing. The detective looked at me. "You should go home. Get some rest. We'll need you at the station tomorrow for a formal statement, but tonight you're free to go." I nodded and started walking toward Maya's car. Behind me, I heard Harlan talking to another officer, giving his witness statement with the same calm precision he'd shown all week. As I climbed into Maya's passenger seat, I realized my hands were finally shaking. Not from fear, from the weight of what almost happened, and what didn't. "You okay?" Maya asked. "Yeah," I said. "I'm okay." She drove me home through the bright downtown streets, where cameras watched every corner and people moved under lights that never went dark. I was alive because I'd prepared, because I'd listened to a warning that sounded absurd, and because a homeless man had decided that feeding someone was enough reason to save their life. The following day at the police station, I sat in an interview room at 9:15 a.m., exhausted but clear-headed. Detective Martinez, the woman who'd reviewed my body camera footage, sat across from me with a laptop and a thick folder. "Let's go through what we have," she said, pulling up files on the screen. First, the body camera footage. She played it back. Derek's approach, his confession about the promotion, his threat about the accident, the knife reveal. Every word is crystal clear. Every frame shows intent. "That alone is enough for attempted murder," she said. "But there's more." She showed me Harlan's photo log, 12 images spanning 6 weeks. Derek sitting in his car near my bus stop on 6 different nights. Derek walked behind me at varying distances. Derek was standing across from my building checking his watch. Every photo had a timestamp and location tag. "Your witness was meticulous," Martinez said. "These establish a pattern of surveillance." Next came the text records. The unknown number that had sent "You home yet?" and the 3:47 a.m. photo of my building traced directly back to Derek's personal cell phone. "He didn't even use a burner," Martinez said, shaking her head. "Criminals who think they're smart always make stupid mistakes." Then she showed me something I hadn't seen before. A notebook, found in Derek's car during the arrest search. She flipped through pages filled with handwritten logs. My work schedule, my usual routes home, notes about when my apartment lights turned off each night. One page had a crude map of the street by the laundromat with X marks labeled "No cameras" and "Blind spot." The final page simply read, "Saturday, 11:15 p.m., final." "This is premeditation," Martinez said. "He didn't snap. He planned this for months." She pulled up another file. Derek's personal phone search history from 2 weeks ago. How long before missing person investigation starts? Workplace accident versus homicide investigation. Do security cameras record audio? Life insurance payout timeline? I stared at the screen, feeling cold spread through my chest. He'd been researching not just how to kill me, but how to profit from it afterward. "We've got him on attempted first-degree murder felony, stalking, and possession of a weapon with intent to harm," Martinez said. "He's not making bail." In the next room over, Derek was being interrogated by 2 other detectives. For the first hour, he stuck to his story, claiming he was just trying to talk to me about work stress, that the knife was for self-defense in a dangerous neighborhood, that everything was a misunderstanding. Then they showed him the notebook. Martinez let me watch through the one-way glass as Derek's composure crumbled like wet paper. "You don't understand," Derek said, voice cracking. I worked twice as hard. I stayed up late every night. I covered everyone's shifts, and they still chose him over me. So you decided to kill him? One detective asked flatly. Silence. I just wanted him gone, Derek finally whispered. I wanted my life back. My ex-wife is bleeding me dry with legal fees. My daughter's medical bills are destroying me. That promotion would have saved everything, but he got it instead. Mr. Perfect. Mr. Reliable. The detective leaned forward. So you planned to murder a coworker over a job promotion. Derek put his head in his hands. I wasn't thinking straight. You thought straight enough to research investigation timelines and map out camera blind spots? The detective said, tapping the notebook. You thought straight enough to stalk him for 3 months. That's not a breakdown, that's planning. Derek said nothing. He was formally charged Sunday morning. Attempted first-degree murder, felony stalking with aggravating factors, possession of a deadly weapon with intent to cause harm. Bail was denied. By Sunday evening, the story hit local news. Logistics worker stops co-worker's murder plot with help from homeless witness. My company issued a statement expressing shock and promising a full internal review. Within 48 hours, HR discovered Derek had filed 3 anonymous complaints about me over the past 2 months, claiming I was hostile, cut corners, and created a toxic work environment. All had been dismissed as baseless, but nobody had connected them to escalating violence. Derek's ex-wife was interviewed by investigators. She confirmed that Derek had become fixated on me, calling me the obstacle and the reason everything went wrong. She said he'd talked about me constantly for months, always with resentment. Meanwhile, Harlan gave his statement at the station and was treated with skepticism at first, until detectives reviewed his photo evidence and detailed timeline. You might have saved this man's life, Martinez told him. If you hadn't warned him, we'd be investigating a homicide. Harlan just nodded, like he was confirming something he already knew. I met him outside the precinct at 3 p.m. You saved my life, I said simply. He shrugged, uncomfortable with gratitude. You fed me when you didn't have to. I just paid attention when it mattered. I pulled out an envelope with $800 cash, money I'd been saving for a new laptop. Start with this, and I'm going to help you get off the street. You're too sharp to stay invisible. His eyes glistened, but his voice stayed steady. Appreciate you. 3 months later, Derek pleaded guilty to avoid trial. The prosecution recommended 12 to 15 years. His lawyer argued financial stress and mental health crisis, but the notebook, the search history, and the 3-month stalking pattern destroyed any sympathy defense. At sentencing, the judge looked at Derek with zero warmth. You didn't lash out in a moment of rage, she said. You hunted a colleague for months with the intent to end his life over career jealousy. This court must protect society from calculated violence. Derek received 14 years. I sat in the gallery and watched as he was led away in handcuffs, still mumbling about how life wasn't fair. The man who tried to erase me got erased instead. 4 months after Derek's sentencing, Harlan walked into the logistics company wearing a Navy uniform shirt with "Life Facilities" embroidered on the chest. I'd used my position to pitch a community partnership program to management, framing it as positive PR after the news coverage. They approved a part-time maintenance role for Harlan, stable income, health care, and a chance to stop being invisible. When we pass in the hallways now, we nod without speaking. Some connections don't require words. I still work late shifts. I still clock in and out without drama. But I learned 3 things from almost dying. First, kindness echoes. The food I gave Harlan wasn't charity. It was basic human decency. That decency came back when I needed it most. Second, trust your instincts. When something feels wrong, it usually is. Harlan's warning sounded absurd at the moment, but listening to it bought me time to prepare instead of becoming a statistic. Third, the quiet ones survive. Derek wanted recognition and validation for his effort. When he didn't get it, he turned violent. I just wanted to do my job well and go home. That steady approach looked boring to him, but it's what kept me alive and ultimately destroyed my attacker. Derek is serving 14 years in a state facility, still convinced the world cheated him. Meanwhile, I walk home on brighter streets, sleep without fear, and know that preparation beats desperation every single time. Most people will watch Steven's entire survival story, feel satisfied, then scroll away without subscribing. Right now, there's someone out there being stalked by a coworker, ignored by police, told they're overreacting, and they need to see this story. They need to know that documenting everything, trusting your instincts, and preparing for the worst can save your life. But they won't see it because you didn't hit subscribe. That's all it takes to make sure the next Steven finds this before it's too late.